All right, guys. Well, this is the introduction to Quizzes Next. Hopefully, if you haven't gotten here by now, there are a couple other videos that will allow you to get on to this point. So we're going to take off from here. This Quizzes Next is an LTI that has been developed to take over the old to replace quizzes in Canvas. Um, and so it has a lot of extra features that the old quizzes does not. Therefore, it can be a little quirky at times, but it is by far superior over quizzes, in my opinion. The very first thing that I want to point out is just like everything, this is where your title is. The instructions on what you would like for your students to know, large picture wise are right here. The plus button is adding, and we are going to get into these a little bit later. But these are all the different types of questions that you can create, and we'll get into those in just a little bit. But some things that I wanted to share with you are these little icons up here. As you're going down and creating an assignment, you may want to know at a glance what it is that, or how many questions you have, all of that stuff. So if you open this little thing right here, it'll tell you that this is what your title is, this is your instructions, this is how many points you have, and it's like a snapshot. And if you want to quickly go to one of those places, say you need to fill out your assignments or your instructions, you click here, and it's going to allow you to fill out those instructions. The settings button at the very top, that you have build, that's where you create your assignment, and then the settings button, and it gives you a lot of different options. You can shuffle the questions after you go in and create them. You can shuffle them so that your students don't have the same quiz or don't have the same test as the person next to them. You can have it to where it gives them one question at a time. So in order to enable these, they can go back and forth with one question at a time. If you would like them to only be able to answer it once and they can't go back and change their answer, you can uncheck allow backtracking. If you allow backtracking, it'll allow them to skip forward and backwards. With it unchecked, they can only go forward. You may have to require a student access code. Normally, what we're using it for, they're going to. This is if you don't want them to access it at home or do a quiz at some of the time. There are other ways to get that, including filter the IP address. You can make sure it only goes through our IP address whenever whenever they're at school. You can set a time limit on how long it takes them to do this, and you can create the passcode. Here's where you can filter the IP address. This is something that I have done so that I know that they're working on it at school and not at home. You can use a calculator, scientific basic calculator, that'll pop up on the screen. You can allow multiple attempts, and this is and you can come back in and change this. Say you have a student or a class that just bombs it. You can allow them to keep the highest score, average, or the latest score. You can also have different, like a limited number of attempts, and you can also require so many days, hours, or even minutes before, like a waiting period, so they can't just take it again and try to remember all the correct answers. And then you can allow students to restrict, like not let them see if you have stuff that is automatically graded. You can allow them not to see what their grade is, so they can't tell anybody else. Of course, there are other options on this as well. So and then going into the reports, after you have after they start coming back and your tests, if your kids are doing the test, this is where you start getting your reports back and seeing how they're doing. Of course, with nothing in here, there's going to be no reports. But then you can also moderate the information about what you're seeing, and this lights up or gets pretty full whenever whenever students start taking this. So again, that's the The settings at the top of Quizzes Next, very good information to know.